I'm just going to start off by posting a link into the chat. And while I start, if people want to go in, it's just an opportunity for you to kind of log why you would be interested potentially in looking at ASEAN, and we can have a look at what that produces when I'm done. So I guess what I first want to start with this statistic, which is, I think, pretty mind-blowing. So the 5 largest ASEAN economies by population, so Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines and Myanmar alone have over 90 million young people in the age group of 15 to 24, which is huge. It's 3 times the entire population of Australia. So one of the things I think when we're talking about internships and Asia capability for young people, when looking at Southeast Asia, is that these economies and these populations are only going to grow, and that's going to become hugely beneficial for young people who are able to be Asia literate and Asia capable, but also is going to be huge for things like business, for education, for trade and investment, and all of those things that we've spoken about previously. So yeah, just starting off with this, I think it's something that's almost unavoidable. I think young people in Australia are going to have increasing contact with young people from Southeast Asia, businesses from Southeast Asia, particularly as economies kind of integrate and become a lot more online. So I just wanted to start with that. So so some of these points have already been touched on, but just to reiterate, so some of, I think, the big things to kind of remember when we're talking about ASEAN, first of all, is that a lot of Australians don't know what ASEAN is. A lot of young people in ASEAN might not know what ASEAN is. And so we've kind of had a bit of an overview of what that is, but one of the things that I think is increasingly important for Australians to recognise is some of the political institutions and ways of doing things that we might not know about or not be taught about. So ASEAN is an association of Southeast Asian nations, but it's an incredibly diverse region. So I think in Indonesia alone, there's over 200 indigenous languages, thousands of islands, thousands of different, hundreds of different ethnic groups across the region who all speak different languages. And so for young people to kind of be able to look at that region and understand some of the political dynamics and some of the business dynamics is complicated, and something that I think is best learnt through experience and difficult to learn through books and online. So it's home to 8.7% of the world's population. It's Australia's largest two-way trading partner, and it's strategically located in the Indo-Pacific. It's also in the midst of a digital revolution. So I think Thompson spoke about Myanmar earlier. A lot of the protests in Myanmar are being driven by online activists, and that's incredibly common throughout Southeast Asia. Young people are incredibly connected to one another online and through the digital world. And so that's something that I think will continue to grow as well. And something that we see in Australia. So a lot of Australians have, especially through COVID, had the opportunity to connect with young people from across the world more and more as that has developed. So I think looking back for me, I studied international relations and law, and I didn't know a lot about Southeast Asia until I was on a plane to Jakarta for my semester abroad. And I think that kind of speaks volumes about the lack of Asia literacy that we see across the board in education systems in Australia. And I think it's a huge disservice to young people in a way, because I think when I landed in Indonesia and started to learn about Southeast Asia, it opened my mind up to so many different things. So my whole career path has changed, and I now see Southeast Asia as such a great region of opportunity for young people and for connections to be formed. And that's one of the reasons that I'm involved in AASYP, which I'll get to in a minute. But not only did I come to realize how diverse the region was, I think a lot of Australians think of Southeast Asia as a really great holiday destination, and it's beautiful. I'm a big hiker. I loved all the outdoors. But more than that, I think I've realized coming home that Southeast Asia in particular kind of touches every realm of my life without even me having realized it previously. A lot of my friends have Southeast Asian heritage. There's a lot of international students in the circles that I run in. There's, my work touches on Southeast Asia. There are so many different ways that being more Asia literate has really enhanced my ability to pursue my career options. And that's one thing that I really want to stress. But another thing that became increasingly obvious to me is that how little my peers knew about Southeast Asia and about Asia in general. And so I think that, so some of the stats, I think that the Winning in Asia report will be spoken about next, but some of the things that report highlight is that a lot of Australians don't know a lot about Southeast Asia. When you think about Indonesia, for example, we think about the way that the media portrays Indonesia. A lot of it is quite negative, about Bali, about perhaps drug smuggling, boat, people coming to Australia by boat. And in that report, it kind of highlighted that even when there are stories to be told about this area, a lot of them don't get airtime. People aren't interested, it doesn't sell. So I think having young people who are increasingly interested about the region is really exciting. And another thing that I wanted to highlight is that, as I think Asia literacy involves way more than studying languages. So we know that language study in Australia has been decreasing. A lot of Australians are not speaking a second language. And that's one part of that's really important, that people can learn through the education system. But a second part to that is also what goes beyond language. So things like ways of communication, understanding each other, ways that we think about values, efficiency, the dynamics of group dynamics, all of those things are things that you can learn through actually immersing yourself in teams that operate throughout the region. So that kind of brings me to ASEAN. So the ASEAN-Australia Strategic Youth Partnership, we're an organisation that's focused on young people 18 to 29 who, I guess, it was founded by a group of people who went on exchange in Southeast Asia and came back and realised how little Australians understood about the region and how much there was to be done about bringing awareness of ASEAN and Southeast Asia to the table. And so we're really focused on bringing relationships into international relations. So as has been touched upon, things outside of the government sphere, learning those skills, I think, comes from interacting with people and from getting to know your peers in different regions. And so one of the things that we do is we really focus on building relationships, so understanding each other and building relationships that can contribute to different things that we do. So some of the things that we do is we run track 2 diplomacy, digital diplomacy programs. We do publications where we highlight youth voices in the region. And we bring together young people through digital events and through volunteering in a way that fosters those relationships so that people can actually get to understand the way each other works. And one thing that we've found is that there's a huge appetite for this. So I think people are more and more realizing how much the region touches their lives and how much the region really makes an impact on different career opportunities and education opportunities for them as they kind of progress. So on that note, I just want to run to, I hope you've all been filling out the Mentimeter that I posted earlier. We have a few. So the 2 main things I think that have come out of cultural diversity and global experience, which I think is huge. So that global experience is really important. One thing I think for students and young people is that more and more young people are getting out there and experiencing the world. And so the more experience that you can have overseas, but also within Australia with diverse individuals, the better, because the workplace is really becoming more and more diverse and cultural diversity. So I think those 2 things are things that ASEAN really focuses on. I know Jan really focuses on, oh, we've got some more coming in. We've got neighbourhood, friendships, diversity, travel. All of these things are things that I think really encapsulate both the diversity, but also the opportunity that there is in pursuing Southeast Asia for young people. So I'll leave it there and we can go into questions later.